We are so happy to have this opportunity to be with you all. Who would have thought that we would be doing a Sunday service with Dallas, Texas? And so many things have been able to happen because of the pandemic. And it seems like all of our online connections are growing and expanding. And thank you so much for inviting us. We're very happy to be here in Swami's home in Ananda, Assisi at Moksha Kutir, where he left his body. And so we're hoping that the wonderful, expansive vibrations of joy and freedom in God are going to come to you also from here as we speak.
And probably most of you know, but it's very nice to actually have Maitri, or we knew her as Linda when she lived here. And I just saw Eric come on. It's very nice to see both of you guys. It was there were different periods of time, but Linda at that time, Maitri, was our video and photographer master. I mean, we used for many years, we used a lot of the material that she took for in our publications. And and Eric, a real pleasure to see you too. So just great to feel sort of like old home week. So
and just so you know, of course, when this whole thing with COVID is over, you are all very welcome to come, and be sure you let us know that you're coming so that we can open up Swami's home, and especially his room where he left his body. It's very powerful, spiritually wonderful to meditate there. So we look forward to seeing you here, and maybe one of these days when we visit America again, we can pass through Texas. We're eager to hear, and we can share a little bit about community. We're eager to hear about what you're planning. So I wanted to talk about two of the points that came up in the reading today that particularly speak to me in terms of our understanding of the light. And the first line was where Swamiji says, because he's talking about why doesn't the light, why isn't it perceived in the darkness? And he says, to divine sight, even daylight seems darkness. And I wanted to share an experience that I had at Ananda village years and years ago. When I was working in the garden, one of the main things that we did constantly was composting, and we had big compost piles that needed to be turned. If you're going to do a community, then you will certainly discover the importance of a garden for growing your food and the composting. So I was turning the compost pile on my own one day, and as I dug into a particular spot, of course, there are areas where the composting hasn't occurred yet, and it's really smelly, and it's like the garbage from your compostables that hasn't yet turned into what you want it to for gardening. And in that mess, which was really yucky and smelly, there were maggots. And I saw them. And as I was turning the compost, I remember just thinking, oh, how can you guys stand it in that yucky, smelly mess? And that afternoon, or at lunchtime, I was walking home, and it was an absolutely beautiful fall day with blue sky and puffy white clouds, and the temperature was maybe 79 degrees. It was just perfect. And I remember thinking that, what an absolutely beautiful day this is. And suddenly, like those cartoons where there's a light that goes on above somebody's head, and the thought comes, of Divine Mother saying to me, how can you stand to be in that mess? And it startled me. It didn't actually come as a voice, but it was definitely a thought from Divine Mother. How can you stand it there? And then the thought from Divine Mother's message was, you have no idea what awaits you. And it was really like a light going off in my consciousness that, in fact, we have no idea. We have an idea because we read Master's words, we hear him talking about the state of consciousness that is realization, the state of our freedom. What happened? What happened? Woo, Eric?
Okay, I think we're back.
Yeah, we lost you there.
Okay, where did you, can you tell?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you were saying we have no idea, and it was really bringing us all along. So,
and that of course, we have ways that we can become more aware, and that we will be more aware of what is awaiting us. And in the meantime, we need to be a little cautious about how we live and how we express ourselves. There's another story that we have from Master about when he went to visit a monastery. You've all heard the story, I'm sure. And he had heard about the abbot of this monastery and what a great soul he was. And he wanted to be able to see him, talk to him. And of course, the monks around him saw this man with dark skin. I believe this was in a southern state, a man with dark skin, long hair, wearing a robe of orange, someone that was just totally out of their understanding of someone who is someone of God. And yet the abbot, when he realized his monks were trying to push Master out, he came and he said, I want to talk to this man of God. Very similar to what happened to Master with Therese Neumann. When he went to visit her, he came to the house where she was and asked if he could see her. And she came and with the message, even though my bishop has said that I should not be seeing anyone without his permission, I will see the man of God from India. And this illustrates how the monks who had less realization than the abbot, and Therese Neumann, who was very deeply attuned to Christ, one of our masters, that they were able to see in this strange figure to them the light. They were able to understand that that light that was in their Christ was also in this man of God. And it's very easy in today's world to make judgments about who others are and what they are from our own limited experience. And we are very blessed to have as gurus avatars, realized masters, those who have attained oneness. And that is a blessing that we want to be sure that we don't betray, that we don't in some way not honor. And these days, with what is happening in your country, what is happening in Italy and in Europe with COVID, what is happening all over the world is things coming to a point that COVID is bringing things to a point where people realize that the way that we have been living has not been truly living in the light that we really are, and that our purpose in being here at this time, in this moment of history globally, where you in America and those of us who are Americans but living in Europe, in Italy, we are living the same challenge, which is that we not allow the misunderstanding of what is truth become our norm. And the things that are changing, we hope are changing for the better. And every one of us needs to live in a way where we don't waste this moment of possible and likely change for the better. We know what can happen. We know what is possible, and we must be the light that brings awareness and understanding of what all of the issues in the world of healing, of immigration, of all of that has to do with politics and of religion, that we are all children of the light, as our Festival of Light says. And there is no one who is not. Even Trump is a child of the light. Every individual has the possibility within them to be more in that light and to express more of that light. And the only way that we're going to help that happen is through our being channels for that light, channels for the love. I led a meditation this morning about the importance of Divine Mother's unconditional love, and that each one of us become a channel for that unconditional love. And I would encourage you in your movement toward a new home for Ananda, Texas, that you bring that awareness into your community. You can fill us in on what that community is at this point, but even we have not had always community here. We started as a retreat for guests, and that was the focus that Swami gave us, and the focus that we had for the first at least 20, 25 years of our life here in Ananda, Europe. And so our moving toward community has been a new movement for us. And I will leave more to Anand, the sharing of how that has happened because of our growing together in service for so many years, service to Master's work, to bringing light and love and hope to our planet and to our countries, and being able to serve as channels for Master's awareness and vibration and his teaching through our lives into the work that we're doing. And that includes the community that we are now building. So I will leave it to Anand to go on with what he has to share.
Thank you. I want to circle back again for a moment to the reading, because Swami mentioned in the reading that there's a particular level of super consciousness that we need to achieve in order to understand that light that that shines, but that seems to be obscure and that people don't recognize or don't realize. And of course, we all know that. That's why we're on the path, is to try to deepen our level of attunement and deepen our efforts to enter into super consciousness. So, in fact, I love that one recording where Yogananda says he will remain in this steady stream of spirit, and he will bathe you all in the infinite light forever, forever, forever. I mean, he's so dynamic and powerful. But in that light that I behold, and he said, in that light that I behold is where all the other forms of individualized forms of creation come. And and of course, now we know everything is consciousness, everything is coming from cosmic consciousness. We can really say that another word for spirit is cosmic consciousness. And for me, that's such a help when we use the right terminology, because in order to think that this is God's dream or God's projection of consciousness, that not only that, yes, we all will wake up, but also to realize that from the vastness down to the infinitesimally small atomic size, these are God's ideas, this is God's creativity, this is God's creating individuality and uniqueness. And it's just awe-inspiring. I just realized, and then when the masters teach us that then you can enter into that even in a more subtle way and in a more intimate and dynamic way by actually achieving the light. And so, but I also wanted to cycle back then. So if it's true that we all are working or trying to deepen our level of attunement and our level of realization, but at the same time, I want to just touch, and we can go into this later with questions and answers, but what you're wanting to do is also something that a lot of people don't understand the need. So in some ways, you already are very tuned in to something that needs to happen. It's from your attunement, and it's something that, as you all know, Master was very dear. It was very dear to his heart that you take, in fact, I will say it this way, it's only prudent that we take the counsel of the Guru and of the Master and follow that and try to develop that. And so I really do feel that today we are living in the times that Master talked about. And just a few of those that I'd like to quote, because it puts just very succinctly into perspective. But he said, you just do not see what is coming. And he said, what will you do when millions are unemployed and the government can't pay their bills? And then, and he kept harping on this idea of world brotherhood colonies. But the defining point is self-sustaining world brotherhood colonies. And so that is something we've worked more at doing over here, but also it's what everybody can work at as we move toward community. But my point is really that you all have taken an idea or the attunement with Master and now are ready to move to another level of that attunement or another perspective or realization of that. And I really do think you will be seen as a model, a new model and a necessary model. I know this isn't the place. I could go a long ways on this subject, but this isn't really the place. But Master railed pretty strongly against consumerism because he said, you will always have people who are marginalized. You will always have those that get pushed over to the edge. There will never be, he used this term, this community solution takes care of the problem of his phrase was just a minute, I gotta grab it back in my mind. The the surplus of industry. He said the communities take care of the surplus of industry, and what he meant by the surplus of industry is the unemployed, because we'll never have enough jobs to take care of people, and so consumerism always marginalizes. And so he, even back in his day, was very definite about 25 couples could save 10,000 each, and with the 250,000 that you have, you could buy a land, you could build 25 simple cut. I mean, he had a whole formula back then that worked, of course, with the monetary system of that day. And he even said, after you build the 25 simple cottages and you grow your own food, you basically take what it takes to begin farming. Somebody here, when Swami was still alive, stood up and said, but Swami, are you saying that I just should quit my job in Rome and move to the country? And he said, no, I understand you can't do that. But he said, what you can do is, with a group of like-minded people, begin to go on the weekends out where you join together. Either you, in this case, he was more referring to the Italian culture, but he said, many of you probably have an Uncle Lorenzo or somebody who already lives in the country who might be very open to you coming out and beginning a group of people who spend the weekends or to begin to grow. Or he said, if you don't have that kind of relative, to just go as a group and begin to go out on the weekends and buy land and build, even if it's initial, just a retreat room, a big house with different rooms, but someplace you can go on the weekends to do weekend retreats and to begin to put together a gardening shed and gardening tools and the things that you need. And it's very difficult to try to get a grasp on what we see for the future, because Swami always said, it's not like you go back to caveman. We'll have technology, we'll have it, but the point is that the system doesn't work. There's a committee here in the European, it's called the European Economic and Social Community, EESC. And they just came out recently and said there are probably 14 million jobs that will never come back. So you can see we are in a big, big transition. And you all, not only because Swami pounded this into us for so many years, and he quoted over and over Master's words, but also because we have this path. We're looking for a light that is not only guides us, but is just much more about what our true nature is, rather than what's happening here on this earth, or what's happening right now in society or in this culture. But so the point is just that through our practices, through building community, through our environment, that we will be guided to the right thing to do. I applaud, Maitri, your meditation and your affirmations for Wednesday, because Europe isn't in the same position, but I've never seen America polarized like it is right now. And I'm sure it will pass, but it may not be very soon. And it may be that I think we're in a transition. And I think what you're wanting to do right now, like I said in the beginning, is a model of something that will come. So that will be really looked up to, not only just that you will do, but that people will want to emulate and want to copy. And that is the way Master spoke, that this idea of colonies will spread, it will start as a zephyr and grow to wildfire. You know, I think most of you all know those quotes, but so I applaud this kind of satsang and this kind of exchange. I applaud the fact that you all have a group that has stayed together and you've been building over the years. And I especially applaud your desire to seek deeper attunement and to with Master and with God and Divine Mother, and that you know more than above anything else that if you are in tune, you will be guided to the right thing. You will be guided to the right piece of property. You will be guided in that move. So I also applaud your affirmation, because that's what we've done. So many different projects with the community. We just try to get as clearly the vision that we want to accomplish, and then we all get behind it and we all affirm it. So I don't know how much more and how much time I have, or how much more you would want us to go. But as far as this reading is concerned, it's a good reading for what you're doing, because it really is a light that you're seeing that maybe a lot of people don't see right now. A lot of people are hoping that everything will get a few stimulus checks and the COVID crisis will go away and everything will improve and the jobs will come back. But it's not quite the way Master saw it, and it's not really quite the way even some of the Himalayan yogis and the yogis that we visit, it's not quite as clear as that. And I think it's because we're in a period of transition, and the more mentally flexible and the more in tune we are with guidance, the more we'll enter into this transition and really be torchbearers and models rather than victims or people who suffer. So
thank you, Anand. Thank you, Kirtani. That sharing is very special on so many levels, and it's a great reminder too in terms of our community building, because now we're in the new year and we're all like everybody trying to refocus our energies, which is hard to do in these times because there's so much change, you know. And I think the ego is trying to find that solid ground, and it's just not. It isn't solid right now. No. So then we go into spirit, you know, and you know, I feel like it's just this on many levels, at least. Well, I think probably for everyone, but I think the devotees are aware of inner purification and outer purification. And I know for myself, I am amazed at the levels of distraction that have been peeling away during all this, and why was I going through? You know, why was I allowing so much distraction? You know, because there's just all these underlying fears and the ego battle and stuff. And now, Master, it's the grace of it, is that Master's just saying, you know, now you really got to go for it. You know, seize the moment, carpe diem. Yeah. So what we'd like to do now is open it up and have as many people as possible come on camera, so that you know that we've got so many people here from not just Texas. We've got people from all over Texas, but we've sort of bonded with Ananda Monterey Bay as a sister center community, and we have some of those folks on, and we have Alex is up in Minnesota, and I think we've got Susan St. Clair is in Colorado. So it's you know, it's beautiful how we've all expanded and connected in this very disconnecting time, you know, and I know we're all very grateful for the satsangs that we are able to share together. So if anybody wants to come on now, you all know the way it works. You can either put it in the chat box or just raise your hand, and we'll call on you. We're still on Facebook. Do you want to come off of Facebook or?
Well, we usually stay on Facebook for some of the questions.
Okay.
So if you don't want to appear on Facebook Live, then you can just put your question in the chat window, and we'll read it. And if you would rather that you even remain anonymous there, you can privately chat to, let's see, Ananda Dallas, one of the Ananda Dallases, and we'll get that, and we'll read your questions. So anyway,
So there is one question posted. Should we go ahead with that one, or?
Yeah, sure. Can you read it? Okay.
Yeah.
So shall we read it so that everybody knows what it is? Do
Sure.
you have organic gardening at Assisi? And how did you fund owning a center with land? And thank you for being a model for us. We're very grateful for having had other Ananda models too. So first of all, we do have an organic garden, and briefly, yeah, it's only organic. It started very small, and we just didn't have, because we were focused on sharing master's teachings, we didn't have the hands to do a lot with the garden for many years. And then the virus hit and the guests stopped coming, and we had many hands to make the miracle of our garden. And this year has been amazing because we've had the hands to sow the seeds, to take care of them, to grow the food, to harvest it, and also to do food preparation and storage and preserving for hard times. And so this year has been just incredible to allow that to happen. And it's one of the gifts that COVID has brought us. We started by buying an old hotel that had some rooms in it and some bungalows, and we had no money. We had to borrow the money from Ananda village to be able to buy that, and then pay it off over 20 years. And it was a challenge, but as you must have experienced in your time as Ananda Dallas and Ananda in Texas, and just being aware of Ananda Village's various challenges and the other communities that have grown, that if you are attuning to what is Dharma and what is Master's work, then everything comes that is needed. And so one of the reasons that we were a guest retreat for so long is that was our income. And that income supported us and made it possible for us to pay off debt, and has continued to be until this year, where we're doing it online, but it's still a challenge. The funding has come a lot from our guest retreat, and also from donations. So because people saw over the years the commitment and the commitment to Dharma and to Master's teachings, and they wanted to support that, we have also had very generous donations to help us with that. And so the big question in the beginning, and I think even Swami had concerns, is that this little hotel was on a main country road, and we didn't have a lot of land. And so how were we going to grow? And we just always trusted that when we needed more land, when we needed more houses, when that opportunity would come. And that's exactly what has happened. Someday we have to write up the whole story of how it all happened. But I think that is what creates community is the people. And so when you've built, as you have, such a strong group of devotees, And of course, for us too, the devotees came and went, but there was always a core, and that core is what creates the magnetism for actually being able to create the physical community. And so that's more what we're doing now. We still do not have very many of our own homes. We have a lot of our people living in rented houses around the area. And our community now goes from about 6 kilometers in one direction, no, maybe 3 kilometers in one direction from our temple and our center, to 3 to 6 kilometers in the other direction. And we're spread out, but it's filling in. You know, more and more people are coming into the area and buying property and building. And so the community is becoming stronger from the core, the core center of people that stayed and put down roots, created the magnetism for everything else that has come. So we know that we're not going to be here for all of the future of Ananda Assisi or Ananda Europe, but we know that there is something that is happening that will continue to grow and to serve Master's work and to serve the individuals who come here, both to serve and for their own growth, for their spiritual growth, for their growth as members of society, that will continue to happen in the way that everyone's attunement to the goal and dharma will allow it to.
I don't want to spend too much time on the actual creation, but it is good for you to hear, just so that you know how what seemingly can be like blocks can also tumble out to be very definitely opportunities. But we first needed a direct cultivator, what they call a licensed farmer, to be able to make sure that nobody else could come in and buy the land near us, because farmers would have the first right. And so with that even we have a member who was a licensed farmer. We have now more than one, but we did at the time only had one. And through that process, also we were able to apply to the European community for a subsidy to build our main food production building. And we got it. And that was a huge help in, we had to come up with the money first, but then they came in once they saw that we accomplished all of the protocols that were required. They came in. So that was a big help. We actually got some European community funding for our farming project. So especially in this time of stimulus, try to be aware of what might be incentives for you all. If you were to look for a little farm or something, there may be things that come up that are available to actually help you fund this. And of course, like Kirtani said, also just that then people stepped up who really liked what we were doing. And it's just amazing how it works, because all these years we sort of felt like we knew we should be doing more toward community, but outreach, just getting the center going, having guests come, going out to other parts of Europe to spread this master's teachings. And so we didn't feed the community energy much, but it's a blessing. We were doing the dharmic thing because when it came time for us to shift our focus, and when COVID really hit, as you all know, earlier in Italy than it did just about anywhere else except China, we were really just boom. We were shut down, and everything turned. It was just almost like, well, that's okay, because now, because of the Dharma, I really feel that I can use that phrase correctly with this community, that everybody really had done their best. And so the energies just followed us right behind us when we needed to turn. And so this year, every day, not everybody should know this, but, but we actually continue to have group meals, but we do have the distancing, and we do have masks when we're not eating. We do the protocols that are required here in Italy, but we kept the community going. And not only that, but all of the food is food that we planted last spring, we cultivated this summer and fall, and it's feeding everybody. And it's not free. You can't say it's free, but because we had the community available to turn their efforts away from hosting, we do it all here, as you know. It's dishwashing and bed changing and classes and maintenance and everything it takes to have 2,000 or 3,000 people a year come into your guest facility. And it's no little thing. And of course, the publicity and the internet work and everything that it takes, that you all, I'm sure, know. So we shifted. We were able just to take that turn. We stepped up to an online platform we never even dreamed we could do, and immediately went like that. And just so that you know what you said about who has joined you this evening, the same thing happened with us when we turned and went online. Now tonight, once we're over with this, our Belgrade center in Serbia is also hosting a European-wide meditation. And so our friends from Germany and Croatia and Holland, and here, of course, in Italy and Spain. So there's a whole network forming also. The languages, of course, are a little bit more of a challenge than they are in the States, but still, most of them have enough of a basis of English that they can join, and they feel a sense of camaraderie and of family together. Especially, you don't need a lot of language when it comes just to meditating together. I enjoyed it very much, meditating with you all, even though I wanted to sit on the floor, so we went off camera, but still, it's very, very nice to just do it live, even though we don't need to be in the same place. Somehow there was a connection that we felt with you all. So it's very nice. And just know that guidance will be behind you. And we also, just to, again, about the organic gardening, somebody nearby is a what's the word I want? Permacultural expert who already lived in another community of 90 people, who she's already been through the process of growing all the food for that community for a few years. So she stepped right in. She was just the perfect person who said, I will help you do this. So it will appear.
One thing I would like to ask is if you can give us an idea of whether there's something you are looking for in terms of community, because if you have an idea and you can send it to us and other Ananda members around the world, everyone can be also adding to your affirmation and your prayers for success in finding what Masters has in store for you.
Send your energy.
Thank you.
I would like to ask, how many years has it been since the purchase of the hotel till today?
30.
35.
The farm is a lot newer, but the hotel and our guest facility has been about 30. Yeah. Oh.
We where we're at is we were, renting for 25 years, and Divine Mother provided the opportunity to leave the lease. Our lease ran out in June. It was perfect timing. And, we had already been discussing that perhaps it was time to rearrange the furniture, so to speak. And so it just seemed like a no-brainer, and it certainly has been a smart move. But in terms of our future, we continue to have conversations. It sort of feels, I know there's other communities within the Ananda world that have moved forward and have, you know, secured places, that they left their spots and they've already secured them. It hasn't quite gelled or felt like the right time yet. We have looked at properties. Generally, I think we're thinking more along the lines of something further out that we could, you know, that would have an ashram, and then we could, you know, develop, and then maybe if we need to have rent space on occasion in town, but it would be more sort of like the scenario you described, where on the weekends people would be able to come out. It's really hard to tell, but that's sort of, I think, what's rolling around. Sometimes it feels like, you know, I'll just say from my perspective, it's like, oh, we can, you know, Master's, you know, is guiding us, and we're going to finally get over that lip. And other times it's like, well, got to give it up to Master, because, you know, we just don't really know what's trying to happen here, you know, but except that whatever does happen will be perfect for us collectively and individually. And
one of the important things, Maitri, I think, is to, like we talked with LA some months ago, we had a little satsang with them, and of course they bought the, you know, they have the 29 Palms place, and they just realized too that they weren't ready to actually change the center work yet in the city, or in, like you guys in Dallas. You don't need to really go to actually fold that up. It is really just something that, even if it was just that, like Palo Alto has their farm that they put a couple of people out on and try to keep food cultivated, but they don't, as far as I can understand, they don't have a big presence out there, because they too have their schools and their church. And actually, I don't know what's happening now with COVID, whether, I'm not really up on Palo Alto and what they're doing, but it changed a lot. And so you'll just go with the flow. And if for some reason there's a change that needs to happen, you'll see it in time. Just, I think attunement's the most important thing you can do. And then you just never know. Somebody might walk up to you in a few days and say, no, we have this place out here, and if you guys want to come out and farm it a little bit, and that's all you'd have to do, and not even do anything different for your city center. So just be open to every kind of possibility. That but we're in a transition, and that's the most important thing, is mentally. So I heard a talk once by a fellow disciple of Swami, who was talking about the 29, the depression of 1929, and it was the most important thing for people of that time was those who were able to maintain a flexible and fluid mindset in order to go with whatever they needed to go with, because there were also those people who just had so much of their value tied up with wealth or money that they, you know, you heard stories of suicide. I don't know how true all of those are, but that people just, that was the value, and that was what they were tied to, and they became victims. But we don't ever want to be victims. There's always a solution and a way to move through and be fluid. And a lot of it is just to not ever freeze with fear or anxiety, but simply to be open to the flow that, yes, I are doing our best, and we know that we'll be guided to do the right thing. So
Alex has had his hand up for a while.
Oh, okay.
He's very patient. So I'll turn it over to Alex to ask his question.
Okay.
I'm from Minnesota. I just tuned into Dallas. I have really a strong desire to be on the path and to build a community of my own here up in Minnesota. And so I was just wondering if you guys had ever thought about doing an online class on the development of a community, or, you know, just how you guys got started with a garden and then developed it into an organic farm, and have, you know, just so that I don't really know everything. And I'm sure all the people in Dallas or Colorado or Monterey Bay, you know, just to kind continue to develop that energy or magnetism on building, just to show us kind of what you did, and so that we can kind of copy you, or at least take the good points of your situation and streamline it into how we want to develop.
Thank you, Alex. Actually, I would answer just real briefly, and then we can open it up to others too. But Swami was invited once to go up to Switzerland somebody had exactly the same question and presented more or less the same, but they had everything done. They had beautiful structures already built, and they had the land. And Swami said to the person who was promoting, said, well, where is everybody? And they said, well, that's what we want you to help us to do, is to attract. We have the facility, we have the money. Swami said, you've gone backwards. You need to start with the people, because what we've discovered, and Alex, what you will discover if you're serious, and what I think most of Dallas already knows, that group, is that one thing Yogananda said too is that these colonies are so important, but he said it cannot be done without brotherhood. And so until you have a group of people who cooperate, because you guys are going to rub up against each other, a group of people who come together to try to do a project, one of the most difficult things is harmony and cooperation. And so that's why most of Ananda groups work, is because meditation is a focus of their life, and through the process of spiritualizing their life, they learn to let go a little bit when it isn't done quite their way. And so, you learn to compromise, you learn that the friendship is more important than your idea being the right idea. There's so much involved with, but having said that, we would love to do a course. We have a lot already online that you can access, but I think the time is coming, because now with what's happening in the world, we have all kinds of people. We just did a holiday campaign called In the Light of Hope. And we opened it up not just to Ananda members, but it was just really to the public. And Kirtani was reading me the other morning from all over Europe. People were saying, well, maybe it's time to start community. Maybe it's time to consider doing this. So people are starting to realize things are changing, times are changing, and we're in a transition.
So let me just say that we have had probably as long ago as 8 or 10 years ago, we formed a course that would help people to start community. And some of that we have and can send. And there are others also in Europe who are wanting to do this. And we are talking about how to put together a course like that online. So it's right in line with what you're asking about. There are many things involved. And so we can get, and plus there are a few books that are already written that you could, and we can send those to Maitri or
she can send them. They're in English.
Yeah, they're English books, just the titles, and that are about people who have also from the ground up have created communities. So
have you guys ever had too many people, where you have people coming in that want to be a part of the community, but you can't facilitate them? So, like if there was too many people at a center, you could send them off to a different center. Is that something that ever happens?
It's actually there's sort of two parts to your question. One is that unfortunately, there's certain people that you don't want, that come, and so you develop a program that allows them time to become aware of who you are and allows us to become aware of who they are. So there's sort of a apprenticeship, if you will, for lack of a better word. We have all kinds of different names for it, but there are entry-level programs just that allows people to know that this is our spiritual, this is what we all do on a spiritual level. This is how we think. This is sort of the knot we want to pick it up from, because like you see, there are what in Europe is called eco villages, or green villages, people whose purpose is really more organic farming or agriculture, and that's perfectly fine. It just isn't ours. Ours is also a very spiritual approach, along with living in attunement with the land and with nature. So that's one of them. The other side, Alex, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, Alex. The other side, Alex, is that our problem hasn't been too many people as much as it has been bureaucracy. So we had our own fair share of problems with bureaucracy, partly because we're in a Catholic country and the church didn't like us. So we've definitely had a whole culture or bureaucratical push that we had to move through. But also that we've just took time, patience, and persistence. So that's a little different. But to go back to your question, we have a lot of people right now, and maybe it was a blessing in disguise, but the government kept us really restricted for many years, and we couldn't buy around us, partly because there were local farmers who didn't want to let go of their property, but it was also because zoning laws would not permit us to build on land except on agricultural land, which is sort of what we're around. So people had to jump over the borders of our land and start buying nearby us. People started coming wanting to put their kids in our schools. They were into what we were doing, or maybe their primary focus was, yes, they had work, but they wanted their kids to be in our schools. So that drew some kinds of people. And then other people were drawn because they really liked that we had an art academy, or that we had an organic farm. And those people also are around and are able to choose whatever level of participation they want to. And then we have a core group who are just really, who run, who vote, who help to guide and build and move this forward. So we have about 100 people. Our community is about 100 people. And in that 100 people, you will have different degrees of commitment and different degrees of participation. And
your specific question about whether we ever have an overflow, and maybe we could send people to you or others who would want to. I wish we did. It seems that the growth of community, the growth of master's work, because it seems like it's growing everywhere. And I'm not sure that we're ever going to have really too many people. Most of the communities are asking, can you send us someone? We need somebody to help out with this part or with that part. So at this point, that's not happening. But there is an exchange, and within the Ananda communities in America, people move from one community to another depending on where their particular skills are needed. So that can happen, but we aren't really overflowing with people who would like to start a community somewhere else.
I don't see your name, but
yes,
go.
Thank you. Hi, it's Mike Wolverton. Thank you so much for spending the time to be with us today, and the wonderful messages you gave us, and then all the insights and just generating creative ideas on the topic of our new home, and tuning in to our wonderful affirmation that wonderful people created. We started off with a song called Brothers, which is kind of a neat song for the present circumstances. And I understand that various songs have different psychological meanings that Swami wrote, and without getting any specifics about that, I was wondering, well, I will just tell you that I have a CD with your pictures on it singing, and I just was wondering, this song Brothers, and since you were on all along, maybe you heard it with us, if you just have a thought about how you feel about it, because it's always been such a meaningful song to me. I'm always, never fails, I'm always completely moved by that song. And I've been inspired by it. And I just want to give you an opportunity, if you wish, to mention something about music or brothers or anything that comes to mind.
I will share this, that more than once when I know when Yogananda spoke about the times that he in fact, he very nicely said, I mean, he very, very sweetly said, after I'm gone, you will see everything that I've tried to do for you. And so he said, so try to take the best advice I can give you. And then and that one point where he said, and don't forget the idea of colonies. And then he said, but it cannot be done without brotherhood. And the words that Swami included in that song, just in how many different countries I've been in, many countries, I've mixed with any men, you know, it really is descriptive. I agree with you. It's beautifully moving in all the ways, and I can only say that it just seems like that's what's lacking so much right now. At least in the polarity that I'm seeing, I don't want to be too influenced by the media, because I know there is a higher consciousness trying to come in. And when you get a chance to communicate with those people, you realize there's a groundswell of people who want positive change, who want to live harmoniously, who want to live in brotherhood, also harmoniously with nature, and want to try to find new ways. So it's not that it is so terribly negative, but there is more of a polarization than I've ever remembered it. So I can only say I hope you can play that song or sing that song as much as possible, because it's a wonderful affirmation for today, what needs to happen and what needs to be said and how we need to think. So I don't know that I can say much more about it. I've been with Swami when he wrote songs. Many songs even came right out of here, right out of Assisi. Though Brothers was an earlier one that came before our time with him in Assisi. But it was a wonderful process, and just in line with what you said about Brothers, we were with him in Florence one time, and we stayed the night. I think he had a conference. We stayed the night, and the next morning we were at breakfast with him in this nice lobby in this hotel, and we went for a walk after breakfast. And he started to tell us, he said, I had just the most incredible dream last night. And he said, I was walking down the sidewalk just like we're doing now, and all the people that came by me were smiling, and I felt their sense of camaraderie, their sense of harmony, their sense of friendship toward me. And he said it was the most euphoric dream because of what I felt from everybody that passed me as I walked down the road. So it was so powerful that he had woke up in the night, and the only thing he had by his bed was the little doily that you set a glass of water on, and so that paper thing, he wrote down the contents of the dream so he'd be sure he wouldn't forget it or lose it. But it was very moving to him, and it's just, we all feel that in our souls, that that is right. That's a soul quality of brotherhood and harmony, that we and we all flourish when we feel it and when we feel amongst each other, and it's a quality worth affirming and meditating and promoting. So thank you for bringing it up. You must have the old philosophy and song that we did in India. I
Yes.
think that's where those came from. So
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Feel so.
And thank you for bringing up music, because for all Ananda communities, you can see how important that is as an opportunity to tune in to the truths through the words and through the vibration. And we love singing. It's hard right now because the choirs can't come together because they can't keep social distancing while they're singing, but we're still trying to do it in every way we can. And it's wonderful to hear also. I noticed that Maitri and Mark, you guys put on music that is pre-recorded so that people who tune into your meditations and your satsangs and whatever have a chance to, which we also do, and it's such a wonderful way to share.
Yeah, we also, this is my chance to plug the fact that every Friday night we have what we call happy hour kirtan. Let's get drunk on God together, right? And we've sort of worked out, we do this in conjunction with our friends in Monterey Bay, and then we invite guests on, and we just had Dambara on last week, and this week, it just came up late last night, David Eby is going to join us coming Friday. He was going to join us later, but he had to switch the schedule, and he emailed me yesterday. And we have people come on. It's not just chanting. We have them do Swami's music, the songs, and David will of course play his cello. And it's just such a special time together that we share. And that's been, along with our Sunday satsang, the Friday night kirtan has been a real magnetic time that we spend together, and has helped many of us through this time. But yeah, the music is great, and then to have the pre-recorded pieces, I feel like again we're exposing people more to the heart of this work, and we also are able to put the words up so people learn the things too. So it's been really great that way.
Wonderful.
So I guess Alex has written another thing in the box. Do you want to read it out?
Yeah, he says, if devotees all have strengths and weaknesses, and per location, we just had satsang with the farm on, he was just saying, we just had satsang with the farm on Camino Island with Dambara. And Maitri is so wonderful in her leadership of service, and the village has group singing, and LA has their online expansions. Could there be a devotee swap / apprenticeship program where a younger devotee could come learn from a master farmer? Alex, by the way, is a farmer. That's been his life. Lecture or whatever, and then return that hero's journey to share those practical skills with the community they hail from.
It absolutely should be happening. Absolutely, there should be this cross-pollination. And Alex, I'll just share with you, years ago, Swami, because I was with SRF before I was with Ananda. And so I don't know how much you know, Alex, but there was enough space between the two organizations, you might say. And so at a certain point, I took a small little group of other SRF devotees down to Swami, and we said, well, what do you think about if we could sort of glean off you, but we don't really want to be in an Ananda community because there's this sort of disagreement in the organizations, but Swami was very open to meeting us, to receiving us, and we appreciated that. And so he said, well, yes, I think if you're meditating together, I think if you have something that's a glue that holds you together, that you don't need the kind of leadership like, because I said, look, we don't have a person like you, Swami, but we have goodwill amongst a little group of us who would like to develop and begin a community. He says, I think it can be done, but you, especially if you're meditating together. But then the takeaway from that was, he said, look, I've never seen Ananda or wanted to see Ananda as like the village he was referring to at the time, as this centralized thing where from here we grew. He said, I would like to see Ananda helping all kinds of different groups start communities. He said, and they wouldn't necessarily even be Yogananda communities, but because we will have developed the talents of community development over the years, we will have the resources to help other groups be able to start communities. So that absolutely should be happening. And of course, it's easy for me to say it because we're here in Europe. So it would have to be more the Americans who would cross-pollinate with you, Alex. But the truth is we're doing it here in Europe. Even across different languages, we've developed that that cross-pollination, and we really have an extended family who are, and we go as often as we can, and we do satsangs with them, and do everything we can to help the Dutch group build their centers, and the Serbian group build theirs, and the Spanish group build theirs. So you just keep digging on that, Alex, because I think you'll find that people will do that. Dunbar is a good example. He would probably come over from Camino Island. I mean, I can't volunteer that he can because I don't know his duties. I get in trouble if I do that. But he's a kind of an example of someone who would just be an ideal person who might be able to help. And you also, to be able to come to Seattle, to Camino Island, or down to Dallas, or just to share in that way. But absolutely encourage it, and even be a little bit of a how do you say, a squeaky wheel on that.
Oh.
So
I usually talk too much, so I'm good at being the squeaky wheel.
And I wanted to just maybe close. I don't know how much time you all have, but I wanted to, there's just another thought about, well, first I should ask, because maybe there are more questions. Is there?
Well, yeah, if anybody else wants to come on, and just to answer your question about how much time we have, it's more about how much time do you have? We always say, well, please stay on to at least 12:30. We usually try to wrap it up, that 12:30 our time,
Yeah.
but we usually try to wrap it up within a half an hour past that, because we want to, honor everybody. But this has been really wonderful. And let's see if anybody else has
I think it looks like Eric has something he wants to say.
something.
I was really inspired. Rada from Croatia came over here and stayed for several months a ways back. And I remember there was, in a sense, it was not that long after the Serbia-Croatia conflict. And I was thinking, it's inspiring to me that that's where your gathering is going to happen, in that area. Serbia, right? Belgrade?
Yeah, they have a functional group, quite a strong meditation group there that's been functioning for quite some years.
You can think of the problems between Republicans and Democrats here, but it's not like we're really shooting each other so much. As a matter of fact, I see a real possibility of something really great happening. I just feel it, that it's coming to a place where it could happen. But in Serbia, Croatia, I mean, think about that. They had genocide and hundreds of thousands of people dying, and they've gotten beyond that. And Master's teachings are so perfect for that area, because it's about bringing different religions together, and the respect, that Yogananda had. It's just, for all religions, it's a teaching that's ripe for the world. And I'm just so happy. If you see Rado, and if you see any of those people, and there, I tell them I'm just so inspired.
That's nice, Eric. Thank you. We actually had we did a Croatian retreat, and so there was a small group from
Herzegovina.
yeah, Bozo,
Herzegovina,
Bosnia,
Serbia,
Bosnia, yeah, and Serbia and Croatia. So those were all three representatives of the war, and there were even tears there. And it's nice that it can happen within Master's teachings and what we're developing as an outreach, but some of those are still kind of deeply ingrained. So it's exactly this kind of energy. It just has to start someplace where there's little pockets of light that hopefully other people feel, well, this is soul, this feels right on a soul level, and they continue to go that way. And so
we talk about how easy it is for just to be with your friends, so to speak. And even when we're in community, sometimes we have little arguments with each other and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's not, the great work is, how we are with our quote enemies, and how we can, it's when it really, the work really shows up in some sense.
yeah.
And I'm just, every day I pray for our government and the former and the one coming in, and I do see a lot of possibility.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's very important to make sure that we're looking at the glass half full instead of half empty, because it absolutely needs that right now.
Yeah, and it seems like when you're in the soup, in the thick soup of it, like we are right now, it takes extra effort and grace to pull on that grace to keep your consciousness uplifted, because it's very easy to tune into the stuff that will bring you down. So I would like to just invite anybody else to come on and wave at least and say hi if you'd like to, and then I think we'll bring this to a close. I do. There's Linda. Yeah. We could probably take it off Facebook. Maybe a few more people will open up. We'll take it off Facebook here for y'all. And I wanted to say, I wanted to pivot just briefly because I want to get in my, Dambara was saying, make sure you ask them about their seclusion cabin up in northern Washington. What's the name of that area again? It just slipped my mind.
Yeah, Okanagan.
Yeah, I have been there. I have not been to your cabin, but years ago, before I was on the path, I did a bicycle race up there, and it was I loved it. And when I heard you had a cabin up there, I'm putting in maybe someday.
Dunbar is really promoting your cabin.
Stay in touch.
Okay. Anybody else want to wave and say hi or ask any questions? Come on, you guys, don't be so shy.
It's been wonderful to have this time with you.
It's been
thank you so much.
Really wonderful. We had 27 people on at one time. I think the folks from Monterey Bay had to drop off because they have their program happening. But thank you for staying on so long, and we look forward to when we can be with you all again. We want to get that. We have that special connection to Darshan. We tried to steal him from you, but it wasn't what Divine Mother wanted, I guess. So, but
who knows?
Yeah, we'll make our way over there at some point. Let's all just take a moment and let's just close with a prayer and some ohms, and just so grateful for you guys joining us this morning. So
thank you. We're grateful for what you both are doing. You both and everybody that I see above you. So
yeah, right. We've got a wonderful core group. We hope it's enough, by God's grace, enough magnetism to take us all to that next level. And but we're dedicated. There's a real good group of dedicated souls, and Master's working beautifully through so many here. So.
Mark, have we met before?
No, we haven't. And I think the only opportunity we would have had to meet was during the Moksha Mandir dedication. And I remember Anand's talk very distinctly from that.
Okay, so you were there. Okay, because
Look familiar.
because you look familiar enough that I was thinking, did we actually exchange? But I don't know if we had a chance to talk. At least I probably
Didn't
did.
we meet at the movie? Didn't we? We went to the movie in
We went to the
Nevada
movie.
City, and we all. I remember connecting with you guys at the movie.
Okay.
Then, so
Yeah.
I think you must have met him then.
Okay.
But
Maybe I guess I guess I don't remember. But anyway, I think you're right. Now that I think about it. But anyway, I appreciated you coming on today, and where we've drawn a lot of inspiration from what you're doing there in Assisi. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you
And we
very
do
much.
plan a trip.
Yes.
We will have a trip coming together. There's Hugh. He's one of our teachers. But
Good.
Thank you.
we literally, there are some of us, I'm one of them. I've been to Assisi. I was on the Ananda choir tour many years ago with Swamiji for the oratorio all over Italy.
Oh,
We
okay.
want so much. There are some of us, I'm one of them. I may not travel international again, but to come to Assisi, I will.
Okay, okay. Good, good. That was lovely.
well,
And
Assisi's always, very close to my heart. That was one of the highlights. One of the highlights, I'll say that. I've been very blessed on this path, but since I've been on the path to go with Swami and to be with all you, and to have the blessing of being there for 3 months and doing. I mean, I felt like I had died and gone to heaven. I thought it was the astral world, and
I remember.
I never wanted to come back, but when I did come back, there were some real special blessings from Divine Mother, and one of them was, I lived at the Brotherhood Inn right there before it got destroyed at the corner
Yeah.
of the village.
The Yellow House.
Yeah, and I came back, and my heart was just like, oh, I didn't want to leave. And blooming in the garden there, never have seen anything like that before, was a red poppy, just like a
poppy.
piece. And if you remember, I was so drawn to those poppies. I was, videoing them all over
Yeah.
the place. It was like,
So it's Kirtani.
Yeah, I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, oh yeah. And it was like, okay, Divine Mother, I get it, So it was, I'll never forget that trip and look forward. That was what, gosh, I don't know how many years ago. Well, I've been here for almost 24 years or something.
It had to have been, I think it had to have been the early or the mid 90s, I think.
It was early 90s. It was just before the centennial celebration, because that's what I got back for.
Okay.
And so, yeah. And the other strange thing or interesting thing about that time is when Swami finally left Assisi that time, and I was still there. He went back. He had said he didn't think he was going to come back to Assisi again. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh.
And everybody was like, oh no, we're never going to, I can't remember the reason why, but there was some reason it was going to be either a really long time or something. And it totally wasn't that way, but everybody was like, and it's just funny. I remember that though. Anyway, Supriya, would you close us out with a prayer?
Surely.
Okay,
So
thank
let's
you.
just withdraw all this beautiful energy. Let's just withdraw it inward and offer our prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, beloved Masters of Kriya Yoga, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Ateshwarji, and Guru Deva Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, friend and guide Swami Kriyananda, we humbly acknowledge your presence. Bless us, your chelas, that we may attune to thee, to the divine deep within our own self and within each other. that thy will may be done. Guide us. Lift our consciousness, for we are thine. And may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion. And may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om. Peace. Amen. Let's just send this energy into the world, very focused, rubbing the hands. Entire world, peace and harmony. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Amen.
Master bless you.